absolutely thrilled to have been invited to talk to you. As you said, my name's Christina. I work in Brighton, and I work also worldwide because of just the wonderful nature of energy that it can be shared beautifully around the world. I've been described in various ways as a light bringer, a truth teller, a star connector, and I work with lots and lots of different types of energy, and including, as we've said, this miraculous energy of Pellowah, which I'm thrilled to talk to you here tonight. So, Pellowah, the word, is actually angelic, and it means a radical shift in consciousness, but it is not an angelic energy. It is basically cosmic consciousness. It's an energy direct from source or God. It doesn't really matter what you call the source, it depends on your personal beliefs, the universe and so on. It is all the same wonderful creative energy within the universe. So the Pellowah journey started back in 2002 when a spiritual channel and teacher called Kachina Mann in Australia, she used to run these meditation groups and so on, and she was looking for a way to expand consciousness. Now, as healers, it's really important for us to have a clear sense of the understanding of consciousness, and also to have a clearer and larger consciousness, because it helps us to become more aware of our own lives, the way we live them, and also be able to see how the interactions and the actions and the thoughts of others can have a huge impact on their lives, their health, their happiness. And we found that the more awareness we have, the more effective we can be as a healer, and hence the more people we can help. So for these reasons, this is why Kachina began to look for a way to do this. And through a series of dreams, meditations, visualizations, she began to connect with a pure energy. And when she asked the angels, what do we call this? They said it was called Pellowah. And the beautiful thing was, Pellowah did exactly what she'd been asking for. It expanded her consciousness, and it helped her engage with life in a new way. And all the people in her meditation group, again, who sat with this wonderful energy, discovered the same expansion in consciousness. But after a while, they began to notice something else happening. As a direct result of this expansion in consciousness, they all found that things began to change physically for them too. So rather than just their mind clearing, they found aches and pains, diseases, physical imbalances. All these things began to ease. So clearly, Pellowah was not just affecting the mind and the energy. It had a larger reach than just consciousness. So the time came for her to begin to share Pellowah. And at this point, the angels gave a very strict set of instructions about how things should be shared, very much in the same way as Reiki and so on. And they were put in place basically because the last time we had light energies here on Earth, we abused them. We allowed our egos to take over. We see this again and again. You come across healers who aren't particularly ethical. You come across people who are very happy to abuse a situation. And sadly, it occurs in every area of life. Now, when I was attuned to Pellowah, I got a very, very clear message that said the last time this happened was when we'd lived in Atlantis. Now, whether Atlantis was on this Earth, another dimension, we don't go into. But it was certainly around that time and in that place that Pellowah was removed from us because we just didn't respect it. So nowadays, it's really important that we follow the instructions. And they're not set, they're not fixed in stone. They do change constantly in response to the changes that humanity is undergoing. We read in the papers just how we are evolving as a species. Communities coming together, kindness is rising, and Pellowah shifts along with these shifts that are happening. So, as we said, Pellowah is an energy that creates shifts in our consciousness. And that leads us to a very important question. what exactly is consciousness? Small question. So trying to define this, well, it's something that has consumed philosophers for thousands of years, and we still don't have a definitive answer. At its simplest level, we are conscious because we are alive. So a brick doesn't have consciousness. Consciousness can be described as everything you experience. It's defined as a sentience, an awareness of our internal and external existence. The state of being aware and responsive to our surroundings. A person's awareness or perception of something. The fact of awareness by the mind of itself and of the world. So, clearly consciousness refers to your individual awareness of your own unique thoughts, memories, feelings, sensations, and environments. Now, the American philosopher Daniel Dennett, he considered and he thought about consciousness, and he wrote, "The existence of consciousness is such an intolerable affront to what I believe should be a meaningless universe of matter and the void, that I declare it to be an illusion," which is just glorious. But if we look at it, he's partially correct, because life is actually an illusion of sorts. Our everyday life is actually an extension of our own creative capabilities. And this is very important in Pellowah. The universe resonates to the energy that we carry. We don't get what we want, because want implies a lack. I want more friends means I feel I don't have any. We get what we resonate with. So again, if I resonate with I want more friends, guess what? I get less friends, not more. People also think we get what we deserve, but it's not even that. We simply create what we resonate with. And unfortunately, most of what we resonate with, we're not actually consciously aware of. It's so hidden in the depths of our subconscious. And it's the subconscious that tends to rule. The true way we feel about ourselves, this rules. So I could say, I deserve wealth. But underneath, buried right into that conscious mind, I can hold the belief that no, money is evil. Wealth is evil. I'm terrified of being rich. And it's that underlying subconscious that will stop me attracting wealth. So becoming conscious allows us to break these patterns. So what we create in life is based on our perception of it and our perception of our lives. And the perception of our real selves is based on the filters of our mind. And that can come through from past lives. It can come through experiences in this lifetime. It's like wearing a pair of glasses. If your glasses are very clear, you look out and you see nice things in the world. But if you've had a life of trauma, of difficulty, we can look out through that pain. So by changing or removing the filters, then we can begin to see who we really are and engage with what we truly want. So our consciousness creates our life, our health, and everything around us. How we interpret life will create our future, because we make our choices and base our relationships on how we've interacted in our previous experiences. So to create new patterns can be very challenging, because we literally end up stuck in what we know. You know that terrible, terrible phrase, better the devil you know? It's awful. It's just the worst way to live. So in trying to describe Pellowah, one of the easiest ways is actually to compare it with another known healing energy, such as Reiki. And I'm sure there are lots of you here who've either been trained in Reiki or have an experience of Reiki. Now, for years, Reiki was sold as being the universal energy. In other words, that encompassed the entire energy found throughout the universe. But now we've moved forward and we recognize that Reiki is just one of a number of universal energies. Reiki being a very earthly based one, which is fantastic at the moment because it allows us to work very deeply, very powerfully with our own physical lives and body. Now, Pellowah, on the other hand, is not earthly based. At the moment, and I say at the moment, it is the highest frequency of light energy available to us. There are a lot of new light source energies that are coming to Earth to help us at this time. And they'll keep coming. As we evolve more and more, as we uncover more of ourselves, there will be more energies coming down. Now, in terms of energy, we kind of say the higher the light frequency, it's not more powerful it is, but it has the ability to work at different frequencies with us. So Pelowa is quite ethereal. And the human being is obviously made up of different frequencies and vibrations. We have the dense physical body, we have the aura, the chakras, we have the soul, and everything resonates at a different frequency. So what we want to do is match the frequency of the healing to the frequency of the part of the body that we're working on. So hence the earthly energy of Reiki works well with a dense physical body. Pellowah works with the less dense areas of the human being, such as the consciousness and the spirit. Now, I get asked all the time, is Pellowah stronger or better than any other healing energy? The answer is no. There is absolutely no hierarchy in the effectiveness of healing systems. Some healers will always claim, my system's better, mine's more powerful. But it's purely about matching the energy. Which energy is most appropriate for that person and that condition at that time? You only get a powerful healing response if you use what is appropriate for that condition. So someone comes in with a physical pain, they've had an accident, they've hurt their knee. I would clearly choose Reiki because it is amazing. It's just superb at dealing with physical trauma and creating deep relaxation. Likewise, if someone very powerfully resonated with crystals, people come in and go, I love my crystals. Obviously, I'm going to use a crystal healing because they resonate, they engage with the crystals so much that it have a very powerful effect on them. And crystals are great at releasing stagnant and blocked energy. So it is with Pellowah. If someone comes in and I feel that their issues are due to them holding on to a negative pattern or framework within their lifestyle and thinking, Pellowah may well be the route that will bring the most benefit to them. Now, very big difference between Pellowah and things like Reiki and crystal healing. And it is the lack of interference, lack of intervention. We all know, end of a therapy session, end of a massage, end of going to the doctor. What's the one thing we ask? What's wrong with me? What can I do to help myself? We're incredibly keen to assist in the healing journey. It's natural to ask. We've got an inquisitive mind. We are not doctors. And we also long for somebody else to help us. But in Pellowah, there is none of this. We don't guide our clients at all. We remember always in Pellowah that the healing is never about us, never about the therapist. It's always about the client. No matter what happens during or after the session, no matter how much something they say might trigger our own ego, we remember it's never about us. So if you can imagine for a moment, we live in a structure, a framework that, as I said earlier, is based upon our previous experiences, previous existences. So our life is now a result of all the interventions, comments, advice, opinions of others throughout our lives. Do you like my boyfriend? Yes, he's really nice. You should marry him. Oh, okay. Effectively, we live in a type of cage made by all the external influences that we've encountered. So the question to ask yourself is, are you truly free to make your own choices? To live the life that your heart truly desires? And do you even know what it is that you desire at the deepest level of your heart and soul? Where would you be right now if you removed all the outside influence? It's an absolutely massive question, isn't it? It's all this outside influence that Pellowah brushes aside as it helps you step out of that old cage, out of that old structure, and become free to be who you truly are and to help you discover who you are and what you want. We all know the phrase, when you say to someone, don't put your hand in the fire, you'll burn yourself, it's hot. And this, again, is our consciousness. As human beings, we are really not very good at changing our breaking old habits, mostly because we don't recognize that what we do repeatedly creates negative outcomes. So we keep repeating the same thing over and over again, each time hoping for a different result. Now, someone said this was the definition of insanity, and I think it's really true. And let's face it, how many of us have tried to help somebody else by pointing out their patterns? But how many times has it actually worked permanently? I bet it's incredibly rare. It doesn't work because the change hasn't come from inside of them. It hasn't come from their own consciousness. The only real change that comes has to arise from the deepest part of our being. Then it becomes permanent. That is the radical shift in consciousness that happens in Pellowah. So I'll give you an example. Imagine you are trapped in a room, okay, and there's the door. You are trying to get out of that door, but it's blocked. It's constantly blocked. And people come in saying, oh, I'll tell you how to get through it. Why don't you take the hinges off? Why don't you kick it? Well, clearly you're not pulling hard enough. Oh, there must be some stuff in the way. Why don't you move it? And you try everything, but nothing works at all. Now, in comes Pellowah, taps you on the shoulder and says, why don't you open your eyes? Why don't you expand your consciousness? Now, it doesn't tell you where to look. It just says, open your eyes. So you do. And you turn around, you look around the room, and you realize there's a window, and the window's wide open. And you realize you can just climb out of that window. You don't need to stress. It doesn't take any effort. You simply see another exit, another way out of your situation. That door's still there. It will always be there, but you don't need to go back and visit it. But that vision, that clarity of vision, it had to come from inside of you. All the kind and helpful people in your life were so intent on helping you achieve the goal that you wished to achieve, even if it wasn't good for you. That's why the Pellowah practitioner is not allowed to give you any helpful advice. Because for the first time in your life, for many people, they will be making a decision based purely on what they feel and know, what drives them, what makes them happy, and not on the well-meaning advice of others or any pressure from society. So having looked at that, I come back to the question, how much of your life is truly built around your choices? How much of it comes purely from your inner desire? Now, I know when I began looking at my own life, I discovered there was so much there that was due to pressure and advice from others. How I should act, how I should hold myself. But the problem was each person told me a different thing. Who was right? Only one person, me. The other people just had opinions based on their experiences. But only I could give myself what I needed. So, I'm 6'3", I'm pretty tall. And one person will tell me, don't wear high heels. The next person will tell me, oh, you're not that tall, why don't you wear high heels? But it's down to me to choose what shoes I wear on any given day. That's my choice. So another wonderful side effect of Pellowah is the ability to really stay with our convictions. So as we begin to know ourselves more and more, to trust our inner self more and more, we actually become less adaptable to the wishes of others, which some may say is a terrible thing. But when we say no, we often find that no one can convince us otherwise, because we don't want to go against the wishes, the wisdom of our soul, mind, and body. Are you going to that party? No, I don't want to. Why don't you want to? Because I don't want to. That's it. You don't need to give a reason. Now, as a part of this also comes a wonderful stepping back from being involved in the lives and decisions that others make. We become much more able to step back and let other people live their lives as they wish. We become less upset about the choices that they make because we realize from ourselves that we simply can't change other people. They couldn't change us, we can't change them. So there's a real freedom to be gained in so many ways. A lot of people find, if they're already working as a healer, that Pelowa actually makes them a more effective healer. It just opens up the channels. It clears those blockages. It clears the doubts that we have within our own heart, within our own mind about who we are. So it's a very effective healing tool. Now, what actually happens in a Pelowa session? Well, the first instruction is that, let's say it's a distance session, you've got to be totally alone, not have any interference from outside sources. And it's the same if you have a session in person. No flashing lights, no pets, no children, no incense, no music, no telephones, absolutely nothing that could distract you. You then lie down, you're given an eye mask, earplugs, and that's it. Of course, if you don't want to wear earplugs and an eye mask, you can lie there without either. But if it's a distance session, it's fine. But if you're in person and you start watching what the Pelowa practitioner is doing, it looks a little different to any other type of healing session. So after the client's lying down, no further interaction between the client and the healer until you get woken up at the end. It is given totally without touch. Now, if you did open your eyes and watch the healer, you might see the healer sort of dancing with the energy, looking a bit crazy, waving arms around, stamping feet occasionally. It can look a little bit mad. That's why it's always just easier to have your eyes closed. Now, coming back to the Reiki comparison, Reiki is fantastic because it can be sent into the past and the future. It can literally be held in time until the client is ready. But Pelowa can only happen now, in this moment. It can't be sent to another time. This means that Pelowa is identical as a session, whether it's in person or distantly. And it doesn't matter how far away you are, it still happens in real time. So it's received at the exact moment that the healer feels it. Also, because there's no physical touch involved, you could be 1,000 miles away, but you're still feeling the same energy. It can be used on adults, children, animals, all very safely, because it's the consciousness of the individual that leads the changes. So there are no shifts that will happen that aren't led by the clients themselves. So a child won't be given something that's overwhelming. They will simply grow in the way that is right for them. Although I can say this, the changes may not occur where you expect them to occur. Your higher self is in charge, not the ego. So you may think, I want this to change, but the higher self will go, no, that's not important. Now, the real-time effect happens because the healer, the practitioner, doesn't channel any energy. In Reiki, in spiritual healing, the energy comes down through us. But in Pelowa, it doesn't. The facilitator simply holds a space for it as it interacts with the client. So because we're holding a space for it, it also means that as a healer, we cannot influence it or manipulate it in any way. We can't corrupt it. We can't ask it to do what we want it to do. And we know there are some, sadly, slightly unethical healers out in the world, and they may be tempted to use the healing energy for their own ego. They may wish to manipulate others, obviously rendering the healing less effective or ineffective. But Pelowa can't be manipulated because it's not affected by intention. Now, in general, healing energies work effectively if intention is brought into the healing. So let's say someone comes for a Reiki session. I might say, I intend that this energy heals Margaret's leg pain. That is my intention. If the intention of the healer is not focused on the highest good of the client, then a slightly less than beneficial effect might be created. But light energies do not require any intention, as that energy never comes down through me, so I can't impact it. There is a downside to this. The side effect of not being able to channel Pellowah through me is that I can only give it to others. I cannot heal myself with Pellowah. Anything else, flower remedies, crystals, you name it, but not Pellowah. I always have to ask somebody else to do a Pellowah on me. So, what might you expect or feel during a Pellowah session? Thousands of answers to that. The experience is as unique as you are. So many people who've experienced healing energy or another complementary therapy, they're used to feeling sensations. In reflexology, you might feel pain in your foot. In Reiki, you might feel warmth, tingling. And this sensation is often considered to be proof that the healing is working. However, during a Pellowah session, you may not experience anything at all. And this can be really disconcerting if you're having a session for the first time. But it doesn't mean the energy isn't working. All it means is that you didn't feel anything. That's it. There's nothing else to read into it. We have this expectation that the person who feels the most will have the most benefit. It's not the case here. Now, some people may lie there and just have repetitive thoughts going around their mind. My first Pellowah session, I literally lay there with this thought that went round and round and round, and it must have been about 100 times. And then suddenly it was gone. Other people may feel energy moving through the body. Some, as in most healing sessions, do just fall asleep. Other people have visions, they have memories arising. Now, a lot of clients can lie there and they think, oh my God, if I latch onto this thought, if I can't relax, I'm going to block the energy. It'll be a waste of time. But honestly, once the client's given permission, there is no way at all that they can block the flow of Pellowah. The only thing that can stop the session is if the client gets up during the session, whether distantly or in person. So it's vital in Pellowah there are no breaks in the session. There's only one way that you can stop the session, and that's down to me as the healer. That's if I get bored. When I first heard it, I was like, really? Okay, must not get bored. But yeah, being bored can actually stop the energy flowing. I don't know why. But generally, we're so busy with body movements and making sure we don't hit the client with a flying arm that there's little time to become bored. Now, in, say, a Reiki session, the effect of the Reiki is not hampered if there's a break. So if a client needs to get up for a pee, it's absolutely fine. They can come back, the energy keeps flowing. Not so with Pellowah. There can be no interruptions. If the session is interrupted, it's over. It's got to be restarted. It's because the energy comes in a kind of download. It's a bit like a computer program update. I don't know if you do your own computer updates. I have a husband for that. But you have to download the entire program or the program won't run. It's like, watching a film. You get through and you leave the last 15 minutes. Like, oh, okay. So you have to have the complete session until the energy stops naturally by itself. That's where the session ends. And the energy, it just literally stops flowing, just cuts off. It says, no, you're done. Now, Pellowah changes our consciousness, basically by increasing the amount of light that we're able to hold within our energy field. The light raises our vibration so that we no longer wish to stay stuck in those lower energies of anger, fear, hatred, jealousy. Light, of course, as we know, also exposes what is hidden. It exposes our patterns so that we are able to find new ways of being. So we no longer want to stay in that pattern of negativity. Once you see you're in pain, who wants to stay in it? Pellowah assists people in choosing pathways that benefit their higher selves, in building a life that will enrich them, bring them happiness. It also opens the door to our inner knowing, our inner sense of self, our wisdom. It helps us connect to our higher selves, and sometimes even an ancient inherent wisdom. That moment when you just know something, you don't know where it came from, but you know it. So also in various therapies, we talk about the unpeeling the layers of the onion in order to reach the central theme, the core of the issue. Very common in things like psychotherapy. So the clearing happens in a very linear way. I remember when I was 40. Oh, and going back when I was 23, this happened. Oh, and when I was 8. There's that lovely sort of timeline of traumas and illness that we can follow. And homeopaths, they always talk about this. You go in to have your eczema treated, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, hang on a sec, I've now got a rash that's come up, but the rash preceded the eczema. But in Pellowah, there's no linear progression. We literally have no idea where the Pellowah will begin its healing journey. You go into a session, as I've said, with a feeling or a hope, please work on this area, this is where I feel worst. But Pellowah will literally create a change wherever it feels is appropriate. And it may not be the area that we expect, but it is exactly what you need. Now, sometimes the shift that comes can be enormous, literally life-changing in that instant. Other times, very subtle. But it is exactly what you need, exactly where you need to start, not where you wish or expect it to. Also in various healing therapies, we have an expectation of having to break down to break through. Now you have to go through that healing crisis. You've got to go through the valley of the shadow of death and traverse the rivers of pain. No, none of that. It just changes the way we look at our experiences and then builds a new pathway out. You don't have to sit in that pain any longer. Pelowa also aligns our energy meridians. Now, if you're not aware of meridians, running through our human body, there are thousands of energy lines. Some are tiny. In Indian medicine, they call them nadis. Some are larger, such as the meridians that they talk about in Chinese medicine. There are 12 meridians, each one associated with an organ, with a sense, with an emotion. And along these meridians run acupuncture points. And this is how acupuncture works. It stimulates a certain point in the meridian in order to rebalance and harmonize the relationship between the meridians, the organ, and you. Pelowa also has the effect of creating this rebalancing and this natural harmony, making certain that each organ is supplied with the life force energy that it needs to keep itself healthy and us healthy. But all done without needles, which is great if you're needle phobic. So, do you get the same experience in each Pelowa session? Nope, not a hope. Because at every session, you've arrived as a different person, as a newly expanded consciousness. And at each session, you will again get exactly what you need for your next shift, which of course will be different from the last because you've already created a permanent shift. So even when comparing Pelowa sessions, if you've got 6 clients all comparing notes, every single one will say, no, I didn't get that. Every person will get it differently. Pelowa gives you the clarity you need in order to see where you are holding yourself back and how to step past those self-limiting beliefs. We are our own worst enemy. We let go of the old and we just embrace the new you that's emerging. We don't need to look and go, oh my God, that's me, I'm terrified. We just accept and go, wow, that's me. And the number of times I just hear someone say, wow, it's glorious, and myself. So what kind of healing responses could we get? Anything at all. One client I treated got up at the end of the session and literally, first of all, just went, well, I got nothing. I felt nothing. I saw nothing. That was dreadful. I was bored for the last hour. What on earth am I doing here? I hate this. I hate you. I've wasted my time. And this was one of the first Pelowa sessions that I'd ever given. And I tell you what, I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And I just tried to remember it's not about me, because clearly that was my ego. I was the one going, I failed. And all I had to do was trust that the Pelowa was doing the right thing. So I did. I spent a good half an hour trying to explain the process to her once again. But all she had was, nope, didn't work, total con. I'm not going to pay for it. This is just ridiculous. Why did I come? So all I said was, look, Just let me know how you get on. And so this incredibly grumpy woman walked out and went, nothing's going to change. I am certain nothing's going to change. So I hear nothing for a few days. Then I get an email saying, could I come back for another session? I was like, oh, hello. Now, when she came back, she was not only apologetic, which was really nice, but not needed. And she went on to tell me all the realizations she'd uncovered about what was going on in her life. You know, she literally was a list of, oh my God, and this, and oh my God. So sometimes the changes can take a little while to come through. But, you know, I've had other clients who've literally woken up, told me about this incredible journey they've had over the last hour. And oh my God, I'm going to change this. And that has shifted. And this is no longer a problem. I mean, just astonishing. They're walking out the door going, I know precisely what needs to change. And they just go make them. There's no fear about it. It just feels so right to them. But it's not always a change in the physical situation that's needed. You know, the shift can occur in an attitude towards ourselves. Oh God, I hate myself. So you know what? I looked in the mirror and I saw somebody really special. Best kind of healing response. Now, we talk about disease as being an energy that manifests from inside of us. You've probably heard this before in various talks. And any disease is supported by emotions and thought patterns. So if we can change our thinking or our feeling around it, then the disease begins to disappear. And we get this in Pellowah. You know, one client I can think of, she came for lots of Pellowah sessions. And after a few, she said, you know what? She said, does Pellowah work on physical pain? I said, well, clearly it does. I said, why do you ask? She said, because my back pain's going. It's just disappearing. Nothing has been able to shift it. But I hadn't laid my hands on her. I hadn't done any manipulations, but just her attitude towards herself, the emotional pressure that she'd placed on herself was lifting and her back pain was disappearing. We've also treated children with Asperger's. There's one in particular I can remember. You know, he was the usual Asperger's. He was angry. He didn't want to be touched and so on. So a couple of days after the session, Mum sent me a photo. It was her Asperger's son cuddled up on the sofa with his brother. And she was literally kind of going, he doesn't do that. This is just amazing. And you know what? Loads of people really just say Pellowah helps their children with autism and Asperger's. It helps them respond to life in a much calmer way, which is just such a beautiful thing to give these children who are struggling in this world. I've also found Pellowah to be incredibly useful in those clients who just refuse to change. You know, they just won't help themselves. I've got a couple of clients like that. They want to keep coming for healing. And we've tried everything. You know, you name it. We have tried the therapy. We've tried the attitude change. Nothing at all works. You know, every couple of weeks, it's like, I'm back in the same pattern. You go, okay. So something very deep inside of them has prevented them from moving forward. They say they want to, but that's the heart. But something in the consciousness was not allowing them to step forward. They were just trapped in this negative place and nothing would reach them. As I say, we tried everything, Reiki, crystals, angels, and it didn't work. But after a few Pellowah sessions, we started seeing really deep changes occurring. The way they talked about themselves, the way they saw their relationships, the way they engaged with life. They really began to step forward into positive lifestyle changes. Now, the other way that Pellowah is very different for things like Reiki is, say you go for a Reiki session, you go for reflexology, and the client says, when do I need to come again? And the therapist, I need to see you next week. The therapist will book the sessions in because they have a sense about how often you need it. And you do the repeated sessions in order to kind of secure the change that's happening within the body, you know, to remove the blockage and so on. But with Pellowah, every single session is totally complete in itself. And that session will bring out whatever shifts needed to occur. And then those shifts are done. That's finished. So the client only comes back when they feel they need another shift, because another session will bring a different type of shift. So therefore, the number of sessions or the spacing of them is again entirely down to the client. Some people will come in, one session, that's it, they're done. Others will want a series of shifts throughout their life. Absolutely fine. But it's all about when they feel they need something else to change. Now, these lovely rules that came with Pellowah, or the instructions, they do allow for Pellowah to be used with a few select healing energies. So, for instance, you can use Pellowah with acupuncture. You put the needles in, then you have to leave them for that whole session, do the Pellowah, and then move the needles. Can also be mixed with crystals. But again, you put the crystals on the body, you can't move them during the session, but they do add something to it. But the crystals must not be programmed. They've got to be completely natural. Because again, if you've given a crystal an instruction, it's interfering with the free will of the person's consciousness. Okay, it can also be used as flower remedies. Because flower remedies, they don't tell someone what to do, they just support the changes that are coming up from inside the person. But apart from that, Pellowah is used as a standalone therapy. Now, as Tina has mentioned, she has met on Zoom the only person in the country who currently can train people in Pellowah. As I was telling her earlier, there should have been maybe 10, 20 trainers right now in the country. But unfortunately, even though the teacher arrived from Australia in the UK, because Australia went into a very strict lockdown, she literally arrived in the UK and had to fly back again, where she wouldn't be able to go back. So we are looking forward to the moment when Australia comes out of lockdown, and the teacher will be able to travel again. And then there will be hopefully teachers throughout the country, which will be great, because poor Julie, she's got it all on her shoulders. Now, learning Pellowah is a gift that anyone, apart from children at the moment, can take on. But you know what? You can have a Pellowah attunement, but you don't have to become a practitioner. And in fact, most people who take on Pellowah learn it just for the change that it gives them in their lives. And that wonderful shift in consciousness. You can do the same shift in consciousness through a series of sessions, or you can kind of take a hit in a Pellowah course. After Pellowah, their lives simply begin to change. We as well, we step into alignment with our soul purpose and our heart's desire. So when you learn Pellowah, there are two levels. The first level is a connection for other people. It's all about using the energy for others. The second level creates a massive shift in consciousness for ourselves. The two connections are given in the same 2-day course. So at the end of the course, you've not only had a massive shift in consciousness for yourself, but you can also treat others with Pellowah if you so wish, but you don't have to. Now, the beauty of Pellowah, there are no hand positions to learn. You don't need knowledge of disease, anatomy, nothing at all. The only step that's required for Pellowah to flow, for you to use this on somebody else, is for there to be conscious permission given from the other person. In other words, they've just got to say yes. We can never force someone to have Pellowah, even if we know it will help them immensely. It must come from free will. Now, there are 7 symbols that accompany Pellowah, but unlike in Reiki, where you find the practitioner constantly drawing symbols with their eyes or with their hand, using symbols in Pellowah makes no difference at all, because the symbols are purely for our own personal use. So after you've finished a 2-day course, you can have things called Pellowah boosters. And this is just a personal boost that, again, brings down a whole load of Pellowah in one go and creates another lovely shift. And you can have as many boosters as you like. So you can just keep jumping forward. They're quite strong, but it's fun. So one of the greatest gifts of a Pellowah attunement is also the connecting of our 12-strand DNA. Now, people say, 12? What? Hello? For years, we've been told we've only got 2 strands. But recently science has been discovering that there are 4 strands within our cells. So as usual, science is slowly catching up with spirituality. It'll be in time, they'll discover there are 12, which has been talked about in spirituality for years. Now, scientists talk about junk DNA, which they believe is not involved in creating proteins. And so they think it has no purpose. Oh, there is a purpose. So in Pellowah, we look at each strand as representing a room in a house. The house, of course, is us. And each room represents a facet of our soul, our being, our talents, our consciousness. So before Pellowah, we tend to live in just 1 or 2 rooms of the house. Why? Because the other rooms, they're cold, they're dark, they're not wired up, there's no water, there's no gas, nothing, they're just bare. Once you've had Pellowah attunement, all these rooms are made ready. So that at any point in your life, you decide that another room opens up. What gift it brings? No idea. Now, I'm sure you've had dreams about, a house, and you walk into a room and it's like, oh, wow, this amazing room. And the next room you can't get into yet. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Doesn't mean, as I say, that you're going to go into each room immediately, but just that it is ready for when you want to go in. Now, how did I respond to Pellowah? Well, I've been working as a healer for many years, and I've been treated by homeopathy, acupuncture, healing, emotional release, crystal healing, you name it, I'd had loads. And honest to God, I thought I was doing really well. I was thinking, yes, here I am, I'm going forward into discovering who I am. I tell you what, I took on Pellowah. Wow, there's always more. There is always more stuff to shift out of our consciousness. Pellowah has given me a certainty in my own thoughts and opinions. It's given me the ability to consciously choose the pathways of my life instead of just reacting to old patterns. And, even now, I still have Pellowah sessions and I still think, gosh, that was amazing. Wow, I've just seen another route that I would always take, but I don't have to anymore. I still am discovering, ways that I talk about myself negatively. It's extraordinary. But I also find that my Reiki's become stronger. My connection to angels has become stronger. I feel emotionally more powerful. I don't react to negative situations as strongly as I did. I'm able to step away, to just, leave things. I love the sense of certainty about my feelings that I have now. I love being able to, let people live their lives. I don't get fearful for them. I don't feel this incredible desire to change them or rescue them. I've also become more creative. I allow myself to fall more into my creativity. I don't worry if something has to be perfect. It's just fun. I allow my soul to shine through. It's just helped me blossom into me. Now, the reason Pellowah has returned to us now is because of the age in which we live in. We are at an incredible and unique time in the history of humanity. We are in the time of Ascension, which is probably going to continue for hundreds of years. And we are at the point of probably the most important time in Ascension, in this huge Ascension wave. Literally, the consciousness of the world is waking up. People are beginning to see that living a life that's based on fear, greed, anger, it's just not for us anymore. We are becoming who we truly are. But in order to ascend, in order to climb into the higher energy, we need to let go of our old vision of the world as we saw it. We need to release that link to our old ways of creating. We can't continue to live in the fear of the world, to live in fear of disease, to live in fear of dying, to live in fear of being true to ourselves. Because every time we live in fear, we help create and keep that negative energy here. So as we wake up, as we release our fears, guess what? We start creating a magnificent world. Now, not everybody finds awakening easy, and fear can be just a massive block to seeing the possibilities that the future holds. They don't want to let go of what they know because, oh my God, if I let go of who I was, who will I be? I don't know. Will my world suddenly fall apart? But Pellowah is just the perfect and very gentle tool to help them find their new truth, to help them let go of their old life, of their old fear-based life. We are ready for this gift. We truly are. All you people in this beautiful group, you're here because you are questioning. You are looking for something else. You are ready for the collective shift into this beautiful higher energy that is here. The shift in consciousness brought about by Pellowah helps raise our vibration. It helps not just us move into this higher energy, but the more of us who move into this higher energy, the more we help others do it too. So we are literally changing the world. And it's just the most glorious thing that we could ever do for somebody else, is to find ourselves, to be happy in ourselves, and to shift our consciousness.